welcome to today's workshop on navigating a testing career. I appreciate everyone making our time to join. For today's session, we'll be having Nicola and Beth joining us and talking a lot about their software testing careers. As a start, I would decide to talk a bit about the BCS, and some of you might be familiar with the fact that the BCS is a member-led organization across almost 150 countries with almost 60,000 people as part of it. In the BCS, we focus on trying to help and support people with the IT techniques they need to work in the IT industry. And then we also try to raise standards of competence across the different sectors. We try to provide support to our members and also make sure that our members are able to contribute to our community, help grow other people, and bring other people up, on board and support them. So that's what the BCS is about. For today, our agenda would include us doing a brief introduction, which I did now, talking a bit about the BCS. And then I would hand over to Beth to talk about how she started her career journey and then her work in the consulting field. And then we'll hand over to Nicola, who'll talk about navigating a testing career before we can then talk about testing skills in general. After that, we can do a Q&A where I would ask everyone to please put your questions down in the chat, and then all I'll do is read it out for Nicola or Beth to answer. So if that's okay, I'm happy to hand over to Beth. She'll do a brief introduction and then take over the slides.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get my screen up. Right, is that we can see that okay? Yeah, wonderful. Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. It's really lovely to be here with BCS and part of SIGIST and BCS Women. For those who don't know me, my name is Beth Clark. I am a member of BCS, but I'm also a software tester working consultancy. So I'm here to talk to you about From Surrey to Space, my journey into software testing. So a bit more about me. I am a consultant engineer and I work at Capgemini Engineering, and my career to date has focused primarily on software testing, if not entirely on software testing. I've worked in this industry since 2019, and over the past years, I've held roles as a test engineer, as well as a test lead on projects in a variety of sectors. My academic background is actually in astrophysics, not computer science or software engineering, and my love of space will come up quite a few times in the next 15 minutes of my presentation. So what is Capgemini? Well, it's the Engineering, Research and Development Department of Capgemini, which is a global multinational company that works in the IT, tech and software industries. I specifically work in their High Integrity Software Expertise Centre, which is based in Bath in the southwest of England. High integrity software is designed to support clients that work in high risk environments. And we have some really great technologies at our disposal to help develop the software that clients can trust completely and that helps keep people safe, which is the main purpose of high integrity software. Our products are used in situations where software is at the heart of safety. So things like driving trains, flying planes, keeping submarines safe, and ensuring that satellite communication systems are working correctly. And a large part of my job involved pushing these new technologies and these bespoke products to their absolute limit and seeing how they perform through my role as a test engineer. My job is to help keep people safe by verifying and validating software that our clients can trust. I specialize mostly in system level testing in highly regulated environments, which is the key domain of operation in the world of high integrity software. And as well as dynamic testing, which I'll talk a bit about in a minute, we also use a variety of formal methods and static analysis to verify our software and objectively prove an absence of runtime errors in our products. And this is using a range of tools such as Ada and Spark, which we co-developed with Ada Core, and a range of other really cool technologies. So in my job, I said I'm a consultant engineer. So clearly I also work in consultancy, which means that we help a really large range of clients. And that's really exciting for me because it provides me with the opportunity to work in a huge range of really exciting industries, including aerospace, defense, rail, space, and scientific research. And my current project is in the space sector. I said that my love of space would come up quite a few times. And on this current project, I'm the test lead responsible for testing some of the features in a satellite constellation. And I'm really fortunate to have worked on code that's had an impact both here on Earth and up in space. Software truly is everywhere in our lives now and used in pretty much every industry there is out there. And that's part of what makes working in software engineering so exciting, but also what makes working in software testing just so cool. So how did I get here? Well, I want to start by focusing on those 4 circles on the bottom of the slide. Everything for me really started back at 6th form. I won't tell you how long ago that was. I grew up on the Surrey-Hampshire border and went to Farnborough 6th form college, which is aptly round the corner from the Farnborough Air Show, which is quite important to me in the industry I do now. I'd always been hugely interested in science and maths, and as a child had a huge fascination with space. And all of that really heavily influenced my A-level choices. So I finished 6th form in 2015 with 3 A-levels in maths, further maths and physics. And physics had an astrophysics module because I needed to do something space related. And I was lucky enough to also have good grades to go to my first choice university. So I enrolled at the University of Bath in September of 2015 in their first ever physics with astrophysics degree programme, which I was thrilled about. I had the opportunity to learn about cosmology, general relativity, and most importantly for my future career, computational astrophysics, which provided me with the skills I needed to get the job I wanted when I graduated, which was as a software engineer and eventually as a tester. As I mentioned before, I joined Capgemini Engineering in September of 2019 on their graduate apprenticeship programme, where I studied for 18 months towards a software development qualification, actually with BCS, alongside my full-time job. So as well as doing all the exciting work that I've talked a bit about already, I also got to learn more formal elements of computer science and software engineering and get a more technical grounding in what I was doing. I completed my apprenticeship of June last year with a grade of distinction, and then have stayed on with Capgemini Engineering, moving from being a junior software engineer to the consultant engineer that I am today. So that's quite a basic picture of how I got here. Then the circles at the top row of this slide actually help us paint a more complete and accurate picture of my journey into software testing. And I really want to use this next bit to highlight that there really is no right way to get into tech or to get into software testing. Everyone who I work with and everyone who I know that works in this industry have taken really different paths to get here. So I did an apprenticeship, other people have computer science degrees, people have been on coding boot camp, and they're all brilliant at what they do. I also want to use this to highlight that there will be experiences in life that you go through that may seem irrelevant to your future careers, and particularly tech careers. They may actually end up being very relevant. For example, the week before I started 6th form, I decided to swap out one of my A-levels that I was taking. So rather than study chemistry, which may have had more relevance and practical uses for my future in science, I decided to study philosophy, which wasn't really relevant to anything I wanted to do at the time. Then a couple of years later at university, I decided to do my placement year in the finance industry rather than science or engineering, despite being on a physics course. I was an auditor, which is somebody who checks financial records to check that companies' numbers are adding up. And neither of these experiences seem particularly relevant to my current career in software testing. But actually, what studying philosophy and working as an auditor did teach me is how to be curious and that it's okay to ask questions. And in my job now, it's my role to question everything. How does this code work? Is this software working correctly? Is there a better way of doing this thing? And I got a lot of those skills and that confidence in asking questions from the somewhat random decisions I made years and years ago during my education. So given all of this, why did I choose a career in software at all? Well, this was because of another experience I had at university. As I mentioned before, I took computational astrophysics, which equipped me with some of the technical coding skills that I needed to become a software engineer. But what you don't know is that when I took that module, that was the first time I'd done any coding in my whole life. I was 21 years old, very new to programming, and this was the first time I could ever see the potential that programming had to make a difference in the world. By learning to code, I was able to do really incredible things. So when I was at university, I was simulating fluids on the edges of stars and looking at motions of comets. And all it really took was a bit of hard work, a bit of Stack Overflow, support from code savvy friends, So a thing I want to highlight here is that I haven't always wanted to work. It's not a childhood dream. I only actually learned about this industry 3 years ago and have come quite a long way since then. So I also want to highlight that a career in software testing really is for anyone. I don't have a computer science degree. You don't need to have one. It wasn't my childhood dream. And you really don't know everything to get your foot in the door. When I started my job in September 2019, I didn't even ever coded for 3 months. So I really was moved from everything. You don't have to dedicate your whole life to software to make a career out of it. And that's a really huge misconception I hear all the time from people that want to get into the industry. And it's something that stops people starting their software testing careers, which means we miss out on incredible talent. And it's part of the reason why the diversity in the tech workforce is remaining so low. But I could talk about that for hours, so I'll leave that for another day for now. So now I've explained why I'm into software. So why high integrity software in particular? Because it's quite a niche industry. Well, if you look at the images on this slide, to me, they all have one very obvious thing in common, which is that they all contain software that we really don't want to have bugs in them at all. So these are all scenarios where high integrity software can be really valuable, as the methods and tools that we use to make these systems can provide strong assurance that these bugs have not made it into the software. And I'm sure we all know we can never be 100% sure of anything in coding, and we can never identify 100% of bugs with testing, but we can get very close. So in high integrity software, we characterize projects using safety integrity levels, or SILs. SILs go from 0 to 4, where a SIL 0 project requires very little assurance of safety. So something maybe like a doodle jump app, where if it were to crash, it would probably be annoying, but it has very little high risk consequences. And that goes all the way up to SIL 4, which is the really high risk situations. And for SIL 4 projects, the probability of failure of that piece of software in any given year is between 10 to the -5 and 10 to the -4. So that's 0.00004% a year. So very small numbers. We don't want them to fail. And these types of projects would be projects where the software takes control of a system instead of humans. So, for example, self-driving cars would be an example of this type of project where the software is directing you and the human doesn't have control. And it would be in a situation where the impact of a malfunction is really big and really high. So there may be risk of death, there may be risk of injury, there may be risk of economic collapse or something like that. So it's a really fun industry to work in, quite a high pressure environment. But for me personally, that's something I really love and is part of the reason why I do high integrity software, because the impact of what we do is really positive and it makes the world a better and safer place. So working in consultancy as well, I get the opportunity to work with a range.
I think we've lost Beth for a second.
I actually thought it was me. I had to double check.
Oh, that was really good. I was actually quite enjoying all of that, the presentation and everything. Especially to talk about the SIL.
Just bear with us, everyone. Let's give her a couple of, maybe she's realized that she's gone offline.
And trying to reconnect. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So whilst we wait for Beth to come back, I'll just give full disclosure. Beth is actually my mentee. So hearing her talk about what she does every day is a joy, because I also studied astronomy and planetary science, but I never finished and I want to go back. So actually Beth is almost inspirational to me as somebody who really wants to do that degree and finish it. So, you know, I will do it one day. I think I'll be 60 and collecting my degree. Yeah, so it's really great to see her. I don't know, maybe I should present and she could come back and finish.
Well, hello, I've made it back in. Apologies for that. Not sure what happened there at all. I don't know how long I've been gone, so apologies.
We got as far as this slide. I was just filling in some info while we were waiting.
Amazing.
But yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Nicola.
And then while you were away, Nicola mentioned how she also didn't study computing. I think that's probably one of the most important things to point out, the fact that you both came from other fields into it. So it's the reason why loads of people are scared of coming into or doing tech roles and everything. So I'm quite glad you mentioned that. I'll hand back over to you, Beth.
Amazing, thank you. Let me know if I drop out again, but hopefully I won't. I'll start with this slide again because I don't know how much I got through. But working in consultancy, I got the opportunity to work with a range of clients on a range of different projects. And my experience so far has been on SIL 3 and SIL 4 projects. So they're the ones where the risk of danger is really high, and we're usually operating in quite strong regulatory environments. So the first ever role I had was on a rail project. So that's in the top left there, where I was just a test engineer to start with as I was getting hang of the ropes. And then 3 months later, I was appointed test lead for a component within a system, so a subsystem that performed calculations that supported the operation of the train's emergency braking system. So no pressure whatsoever there. I ended up being on that project for 15 months, and I really did a lot of growing in this time. So I started as a tester writing Python 3 test scripts, and then very quickly moved up to leading a team of 4 people, reporting progress up to the test lead, developing tickets on Jira, thinking about longer term testing. And that was a really great experience for me. We were working with a V model software development lifecycle. So that meant that whilst I was working on the lowest level to start with in the component testing, I actually got the opportunity to go up a couple of levels where I supported integration testing and then overall system testing with our simulated train. And that gave me experience across all possible levels that I had the opportunity to get into, and the chance to learn about the differences between them and the different types of testing that exist. Because I think a lot of people think testing is one type of activity, but there's actually so much variety in being a tester and what you can do. So then after 15 months there, I moved on to a scientific research project where I was designing and developing a test results management tool. So I wasn't actually doing testing, I was doing developing. But this tool would support test engineers who are working on safety critical aerospace projects. And my experience that I'd had in tests was actually really invaluable here, as I kind of knew what testers would be looking for in the functionality of this tool, the regulations they'd have to follow. And I also had a really large network of testers to call upon when I wanted to try some acceptance testing. And I ended up being on that project for 6 months until July of last year. And since then until now, I've been contracted out to a company called Cambridge Consultants, where I'm supporting them as a test engineer on a satellite communications project. So that's in the top right, where we've made the full circle leap back to my love of space. I joined the team last year as a subsystem test engineer. So I was back to writing test scripts using all the Python knowledge I'd gained on the rail project. And I'm now the subsystem test lead. So that's a role I've been in for a month, which is really exciting for me. I get to go back into the test management role. I get to plan tests, look at all our traceability, and take on a bit more responsibility again, which is really great for me in my progression. This project is a bit different because it uses an agile methodology, and we use some Scrum and some Kanban, which is really interesting for me coming from high integrity software, because we normally use very linear development models, so waterfall and V model. So jumping into an agile environment has been a bit of a challenge for me, but in the best way, because it's really great to be able to apply the knowledge and skills that I've gained in new ways. So whilst my projects are very industry, the tools that I've used have remained fairly constant. As I've mentioned, I make really heavy use of Python 3 for writing test scripts, and I use a range of libraries to support project needs. A current one we're using is the async.io library, which is really useful for data transmission projects. I also use things like Jira to manage workload, Jenkins for our CI, and then configuration management using Git and SVN. And I've also been looking into a range of test management tools. So we're looking at Qtest for one project at the moment. And we've also looked at libraries like PyTest. And whilst having the right tool set is obviously a necessity and really great to have, it's absolutely nothing without the right skill set and knowledge to go along with it. So as well as having all these great tools, I make sure I stay up to date with my learning. And last year I completed the ISTQB Certified Tester Foundation course. So that gave me a bit of further grounding into the area of software testing. And I think that to be a great tester, you always need to be learning, because knowing how to use these tools and how to apply your mindset is a key skill, and one that's kept me going through the past 3 years. And finally, I just wanted to finish on what my top tip is for anyone who is interested in software testing or currently working in it, which is stay curious and never stop learning. Soft skills really do matter. So not just the technical stuff, but also how do you talk to developers? How do you tell them something's wrong with their code without upsetting them? And as well as soft skills, it's really important to stay up to date with the latest tools and trends in the industry. You don't need to be a genius to get into testing. You just need to be open to keeping on learning, getting feedback, getting stuck in, and asking questions. And it never hurts to do the odd course or two. Also, stay curious by reaching out to others in the testing community. There are plenty of us on LinkedIn. There's lots of blogs, podcasts, and events like this, and lots of ways just to reach out, say hi, grow your network, and prove to yourself that there's a bit of diversity in the industry, and that not everyone has a computer science degree, even as you see here tonight with neither of our speakers coming from that background. And you can easily find mentors and friends within the software testing community who will really help you shine. And so to finish, I will keep on with this theme and say, if you want to reach out to me, you want to connect, you want to chat more about software testing, please come and find me. I'm happy to chat and to help anyone with anything they need. Thank you.
That's really, really, really good, Beth. Thank you so much. I'm quite glad that Beth encouraged loads of people to reach out to her to have any other questions. I think that was partly what this was for Beth to show how she's come this far with her career, and also open the way for other people to ask questions or reach out to her. Now, one of my favorite things that you mentioned was another talk about how you talk to the devs and tell them that they've made a mistake or you found a bug or something. When I worked as a PO, our QAs and devs are always head to head with each other. But yeah, they found a way to just make that work regardless. So
yeah, it definitely is a skill for sure. You don't want to start arguments or make people feel stupid. It's a tricky one to navigate, and a skill that I think a lot of testers don't realize they need until it's too late.
That was really, really good. So yeah, everyone's encouraged to join testing. I know it's a really good career because I have a lot of testing friends. And as you can see, we've got two great women also that are in the testing field. So thank you so much, Beth. Again, please reach out to her on LinkedIn. She'll be happy to help out. Now I'll hand over to Nicola, who will talk about navigating the testing career. And that's it. Nicola, do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, I'll try. Okay. Hi, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, so after Beth's amazing presentation, which we will come back to talk about, after my chat, I just got lots of questions, so we'll dive in after this. But I wanted to talk about how you navigate a testing career. The whole testing landscape, the whole quality landscape, it's changed so much over the past, I'd say, 10 years, and you know, the reason being because as Beth has alluded to, a lot of projects are waterfall, now are moving into the agile space, and that means a huge change for testers. Less so for the developers, but it really has been seismic for testing and what skills we have, how we move in this world. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the myths around getting into testing, my career path, and just some other points about the skills of people who do testing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about me, talk about my background, as I've mentioned, my career path as well. I'm going to look at common myths, some of the pathways into testing roles and the non-traditional ones that people may not think about. Marketable skills right now, what's important for people in testing, and, you know, really about keeping your skill set up to date, and to keep yourself marketable is really important because you can be left behind very quickly. Some roles that involve software testing that you may not have considered. So if you don't want to go into a traditional tester role, there are other roles within tech that you can go into where you may still need to have some level of understanding about testing and quality. Is a testing role right for you? So there'll be some points that I'll raise on that. Beyond testing, what else can you do? There are things I've done outside of testing that still link back to what I do here and the volunteer work that I do, for example, and I've done lots of stuff. So I will take you through a bit of that, and maybe it might inspire you to become testers, or to just, you know, if you're looking at moving into tech, if there are people on the call who are looking to move into tech, it might inspire you. And then we'll close. Okay. That's me. I'm a BCS council member. I've recently been nominated this year onto council. It's huge for me, because I would never have dreamt 5 years ago that I'd be doing that now, and really being able to help to influence what's happening in our space, and really to help women in tech and diverse people in tech as well. I'm vice chair of the special interest group in software testing, SIGIST, and also BCS Pride as well, our LGBTQIA+ group. So I help on both of those committees. I'm a BCS mentor. I'm an inclusion officer for BCS Women, and I actually do an inclusion role for SIGIST as well. So my hands are very full, I'm very busy, but I do all of these little things for the member groups. And my day job, because I do actually have a day job, is head of quality engineering for a company called Adaga, and we are in the AI and data science space. So just about a career path, if you've never, if you think back to when you started working in tech, if you're now considering moving into testing, or you're already in a testing role, some of these roles will be similar to things you've seen or roles you've already been in yourself. I started out as a UAT tester, I think back what year it was, in '99. I started out actually doing a kind of admin kind of role, project admin role within the team, but very quickly realized that I had analytical skills, and that was recognized by some of the people on the team, developers, architects, and they kind of, I was mentored actually by an architect, and he really said to me, do you know what these roles are? You know, have you ever heard of testing? You would be really good at it. You have that mindset, you look at details, and you care about the stuff that goes out to other teams. So I started to do business process testing, first of all, and realized that I could actually do it as a career, that there were jobs advertised for UAT testers. And I did ICEB exam and never looked back. Now, for a moment while I contracted, because I have been a contractor as well, I did do BA work for a while, business analysis. But I think there are mindsets, and people do certain roles that suit them. I don't mind doing business analysis, but I love testing more than anything. So that's where I feel most comfortable. And I've done every job right up until now, which is my head of quality engineering. I've been head of QA as well at Adaga as well. And as I've mentioned, the other roles I've had project admin and business and data analysis as well. And I've worked in many industries. I've worked in IT and computing, obviously, but I've also worked in pharmaceuticals, education, government, aviation, finance as well. And there should be media on there as well, because I've worked in broadcast media a lot as well before. So some of the common myths about getting into testing, it's so weird. Some people do come up with these things, and I hear them when I usually when I have somebody as a new mentee, I hear, I didn't hear this from Beth, I would say that, but I hear these things from people. So it's the easiest way to get into tech. I get that a lot. I get people reach out to me on LinkedIn and say, I've heard it's really easy, tell me how to do it. You know, and I say, wow, that's not true, and get quite, you know, have to get the list of things that potentially you might need to know, and then that kind of puts them off, or they're enthusiastic and they go for it. It's a nice way to get into tech, I think, because it gives you a good grounding in disciplines, different disciplines, and you have to look at tech from different aspects. So you need to think like a developer, but you also need to think like a business analyst if you have those roles on your, if you have the BA role within your organization. You need to think like a product manager. You need to think like so many different people when you're thinking about the best way to test the software, and you have to put yourself in their shoes. And so I think it gives you the best overall way to get into tech, and you can still to some extent get in without any real technical skills, and as in languages, etc. You don't really need to do that at first. If you can get in at ground level, you could probably come in as an exploratory tester or something like that. Second myth, people who don't code become testers. Well, I hear that a lot, and there was an element of that happening. I know that when I contracted, a lot of agencies were going to students in university and trying to get them to sign up to work for the banks, etc., but not requiring them to know any coding or anything. They were hiring them as manual testers at a very low day rates. So, you know, they could get them in at ground level, but still, you know, have those resources on their team. So you do get a slight element of that, but I would still say it's not entirely true, because there's lots of people who come in to testing as what we call software developers in test. So they have that background behind them, and then they get the killer skills on top of being a tester. They're very formidable and extremely marketable, that they earn lots of money on the open market. You'll be bored with a testing role, not at all. It's up to you to choose to work for a company with a great product that inspires you to, you know, go to work every day. If you get bored easily, you could potentially become a contractor, because then you work on projects for a shorter amount of time and you get to hop around and choose different projects that suit you. I did that first of all. That's why I started contracting. I have a really short attention span, and this really pleased me to be able to contract and choose projects that I wanted to work on, and apply for roles that really would interest me. Most days you'll never be bored, even if you're in a permanent role, because you'll make that job interesting, and hopefully that will add benefit to your teams. There's no career progression. That's a lie. It's really because the reason why people say that now is because of Agile. What Agile has done is it started to tear out the traditional roles from the career path for a tester. So now you tend not to have test managers that often now. It's something that's dying. If you see the roles still, it's in a traditional waterfall process. You'll see test leads, absolutely, and they almost do the role of a manager as well. And you'll see heads of test or heads of quality or whatever the setup is in your organization, but you rarely see a test manager role anymore, and it's because they the teams are becoming more and more lean, and a test manager wouldn't be involved in the day-to-day of Agile team, so they would be responsible for maybe strategy and planning and things like that. So you know, there is career progression, but you might have to think about it slightly differently. It may be that you want to move out of testing altogether, and move in sideways into an engineering lead role, and then up through engineering management. It may be that you want to do that, or you might want to move into product, and then you can make that move through product as well. And you could also make the move if you really are thinking outside of the box. There are new roles coming up now for CXOs. And so that is like a customer success kind of role, but you can actually link it with delivery as well. And some people are making that move too. So, you know, there are different ways that you can move within tech. Don't leave because you think there's no career progression. Retrain in a certain area or add more skills to your bow and you can move. There's no reason for you not to move. So pathways into testing roles. So the first one I would mention is apprenticeships. It's something that is becoming more popular again. The idea that you can work for a number of days during the week and then get released to college or uni. Really good because you're getting that on-the-job experience that other people lack when they leave uni. They don't have that. They might have done a little bit of a placement, but they haven't done that as much work as you would do within an apprenticeship. It is basically one of the best ways to get into a tech role, and especially even a testing role if you could find a company willing to take you on as an apprentice. I'm not sure how much it pays, but yeah, I'm sure if you were willing to take a lower amount of money, then than maybe if you were on an open market role, then you'll get the benefits because you're getting that training from people within your team. University, obviously the standard way of getting in, doing computer science or engineering degree and switching over to tech. But computer science is the usual path. I think what's missing in a lot of computer science courses is the testing elements and quality elements. They may do a small amount, but they don't do much. And what happens is you'll end up having to go to a boot camp or something outside of going to uni in order to pick up those additional skills that you might need. The other thing that was, as I've mentioned earlier, I think, is that agencies had for a little while been going to unis and picking people from courses like computer science courses and offering them the chance to go and work for the big banks and things like that as a contractor. So their first role would be a contract role. There are some benefits to that because obviously you get a variety of projects and you're getting in at, you know, prestigious organizations straight off the bat, which is, you know, not something everyone can do. You're not permanent though, so they don't care about your career path. They don't care about your mentorship. They don't care about what you do beyond doing that job. So there are some downsides to going in that way. And I feel that it's the lack of support for somebody coming into the workplace for the first time. So whilst it's great that you get that experience of working in a bank or a big organization in that way, there are some things that are lacking, which you will struggle with if you do go in that way. And I've met people who've struggled with it. And actually what it's done is it's meant they've left testing. Career change, another really good one. I see people coming in from all different backgrounds and going into testing careers and other careers in tech, and I absolutely champion it. I think you can come with some really good skills that you may not think are important or beneficial, and you can apply those within the role you go to, and you can be a real, value add for your team. It's a brilliant way to get into the career, and you can come from any career. I've had people who've reached out to me and say, I'm in marketing and I want to go into tech. How do I do that? Are my skills transferable? They absolutely are, you know. Or you don't need to go into testing. You might want to go into product management or something like that, where you could really use those marketing skills. As I did as part of a user team. So, I used to test the software for our teams within other departments, and that's how I started. And really understanding the products that the company used was, a really great insight into how my mind worked. And I realized I was very analytical. So working as part of a user team is a great way to get in. And really just to understand the product from the point of view of the business user and not just the requirements that are written down. So the marketable skills, there are loads at the moment. So I work in the data science and AI space, obviously, but I don't have a background in data science. I've done courses. I've done them long before I went to work for the company I'm at now, actually, which meant that I was kind of marketable in a strange new way, because testers were not historically asked to work for companies that with working on AI models. And when I got the role I'm in now, I basically had been approached by a couple of companies asking me to do the same kind of job. So I realized, hold on a minute, these courses I did with MIT Professional, years ago, they're actually coming into their own now, and these skills are marketable. They really do help. I mean, they're all kinds of skill sets that you potentially need. I would say having full stack skills is the goal. So if you like back end development, fine. There are absolutely jobs that test roles that require that alone, or front end. But really the ideal is to be that unicorn. And if you have both of those, and maybe if you even have some like platform DevOps experience, you could potentially be in a very, very strong position. The need for those people with all-round skills is never been as much as it is now. It's just amazing amount of jobs out there. If you have that skill set, you'll have agencies coming to you and asking you, how much do you want? That's how big it is at the moment. Obviously, if you have just specific back end or front end skills, that's fine too. It's not an issue. You'll still get lots of work. If you're a software developer that wants to move into testing, again, you're very marketable, and you can pretty much say how much you want for the job. But that may all change. That's just the way the market has been since I think maybe the first lockdown. And that's really what the market has been like. If you have other skills around data science and analytics, again, that's a really good set of skills to have. Any AI and ML skills, brilliant too. But yeah, if you've got DevOps and observability and things like that, you're really marketable. So it's really pays, and it really does, to keep your skills up to date and make sure you keep up with what's happening in the marketplace. Even if you're not looking to move job, think about your skill set and how you might keep that up to date. If your company doesn't invest in your training, if you work for a small company maybe and they don't invest in your training, please make sure you do free courses. There are loads online. Don't let your skills fall behind because your company's not paying for it. There are tons of free coding skill courses that you can do. You don't need to pay for it. So there are loads of roles involving software testing, and some that you may not even consider. So project managers, etc., they all do some level of test. It might not be the traditional testing that you're used to or know about, but they do some level of testing. Obviously, I've mentioned the SDETs as well. And then there are niche areas of testing as well. So obviously the non-functional areas. There's this thing within some companies, like smaller companies, where they think that testers have all the skills and they can do everything. Non-functional, functional, they can do it all. And any type of testing you throw at them, they go, oh yeah, I can do that. That's not the case. We have niches too, and people get paid to be in those niches. So, if you're a performance tester or something like that, you can, get paid for doing stuff like that. And, there are lots of roles that potentially have testing within them. And more recently, there are roles such as a test coach, which is probably coming into its own within companies that have agile. And where they are tasking the engineering teams with being more responsible for what goes out the door and taking accountability for that. So the tester role is probably changing as opposed to being got rid of altogether. It's just changing in some aspects, but that's not for every company. Not every organization can handle that kind of setup, and they require a more formal way of testing, much like Beth's environment now, for example. That needs to be more formal, and you've got security and safety aspects that need to be looked at as well. Is a role in testing right for you? Well, as I've mentioned, there are obviously different types of and areas that you can get into, but software testing can be challenging. You may need to know specific domain knowledge and have that experience. So this plays to the part where I talked about, it's easy to be a software tester, or it's easy to get into software testing. That's not always the case, because where you need specific domain knowledge, they won't take you on. And that's as honest as I can be. It requires an analytical and creative mindset. It does. And most people don't think of things like tech as being creative, but it's a very creative space. And especially for testing, we have to think outside of the box about how we will approach the testing of specific areas of a system. And it might not be the traditional ways that a team has approached something. You need to think wider than that. It requires good communication skills. I talk a lot, as you can see, and it really does require good communication skills, just because of the breadth of people that you need to liaise with on various projects. And it's not just your team members, you may have to deal with senior management and leadership. You should be happy with change. If it's anything like my place, no 2 days are the same, and you could be working on different technologies from project to project if you choose to go into the contract or consultancy space. So this is what I do beyond testing. So outside of quality and testing, I do quite a lot, but it ultimately comes back to what I do every day. So last year I was nominated for a few awards, and the Computer Weekly Women in Tech UK kind of awards came up, and they've got several different areas of this, but I was nominated for the most influential women in UK tech in the long list. And then I was nominated again for Rising Stars. And in fact, Beth was as well. And I think Beth won. I'm not entirely sure, she can confirm after this. But I've also been nominated to appear in a book by Tech London advocates, Black Women in Tech, Voices in the Shadows too. So I've been nominated for that. I've spoken at big conferences about diversity in tech, an area that I'm passionate about. So I've spoken at conferences around tech subjects again, but with a view to talking about maybe testing and diversity or something along those lines, or mentorship. I speak at a lot of events. I've also spoken at the diversity rally for Picked For, which is a government group who hold a rally every year on diversity, and it has some big names that go to speak there. So I was really honoured to be asked last year to speak for them. And this year, in November, as well as all the other events I've done this year, I've been asked to speak at Women of Silicon Roundabout. So I'm really happy about that. It's probably going to be 5,000 people at Excel in London, and that's going to be the biggest event that I've done. And I'm super excited about that. So it's just to give you an example of some of the things you can do outside of going to work every day, being passionate about being in tech, and also about helping other people in this space and helping them to move forward with their careers and their choices in career. There are lots of opportunities for your own star to shine. And that's an offshoot of doing stuff for other groups. So be aware of that. Don't just go to work and do your job. Love tech, and be a champion for it, and talk about it to other people outside. And maybe we'll encourage more people to join this space, especially more diverse people. And and I'm talking about women, Black people, and other. There are lots of different diversities that should be also included in this space, and the numbers are so small. We have to do something about it, and we have to encourage people to want to stay in tech. So mums who go on maternity leave, for example, and then don't want to return because they don't feel that they are valued. We need to make sure that these things change, because we want to encourage more people to stay in tech. So in conclusion, a career in testing is never dull. And as I say, no 2 days should be the same. If they are, think about getting another job. You get the opportunity to work on interesting projects and with people from all different backgrounds. Yes, you do. And especially with the volunteer work that I do with SIGIST, I get to work with lots of people, and all the other groups that I work with within BCS member groups, actually. You can bring skills to a test role from other areas, even those outside tech, as I've mentioned before. Make sure that you highlight those skills, don't hide them away. They're all relative and valued. You can progress to engineering management and leadership. Absolutely can. You might need to do a sideways move to get to leadership, but the chance is there if your company doesn't, recognize the path from for testing through to leadership. Think of some other novel ways that you can do it, and you will be able to do it. Find a good mentor, really important. Don't think that you can sit in isolation and just, navigate your career. The best way to navigate is to find a good mentor to hold you accountable, and also to help you make small decisions that you might need to make. They're not there to train you, they're not a coach, but they can help you with short-term goals. They can maybe put you in touch with people who might be able to help you with certain problems that you're having around your career. And you can work with somebody for a small thing, like send them an email and ask them a question, to very, very big, long-term goals that you want to reach career-wise. You will join a global network of skilled people in tech. You absolutely will. And, it's brilliant, the amount of people that I've met throughout my career. And I've been doing this for 23 years in April, just gone. It's amazing, the amount of people that I've met, and just, yeah, in some cases, they've been really helpful for me, and they've helped to mentor me without them being my formal mentors. So I hope and wish the best for you all. and hope that you get to do as long and as fruitful a career as I have. And if any of you want to reach out to me, you may do so at my work email, nicola@adaga.ai, and we're hiring. I should put that in there. We're not hiring for testers at the moment. We've just done a test role. So keep looking at our careers page, because adaga.ai, and look at the careers page. We've got lots of jobs at the moment around engineering. So if you have engineering skills that you want to apply, you could always then make a sideways move into my team. But yeah, we're hiring, so please have a look. Or you can find me at Nicola L. Martin on Twitter, or you can find me on LinkedIn, and there's the address, and we'll put it in the chat afterwards as well. And hopefully, yeah, you'll be able to come and speak to me. That's it.
That was really, really good, Nicola. Thank you so much for that. Again, it's just encourage everyone to try and reach out, because like Nicola pointed out, being able to find someone to mentor is really good. Someone to just even share ideas with, someone to run to lean on. So I think part of the slides that was my favorite was the myth and buster, where you talked about the fact that people actually always assume the test is quite easy. I was one of them. So the moment you put the first, I was like, oh, ouch, because we always see testing as the first way into a tech career. And then I quite liked the talk about being able to move sideways into testing and everything. For a few seconds, I was almost sold to probably leave my PM job and move into testing. But I remembered that I'm not detail oriented, so I'm just going to stay where I am before I probably crash a plane or something. So that's that. I'll probably miss loads of bugs. All right, so we're in the question and answer section and session. If you've got any questions, please just put your hands up and I will call you.
I've actually got some questions for Beth.
Oh, okay.
Do that quickly. So Beth, obviously, I do know you, as I've given full disclosure to everyone when you went offline for a little while. And I was saying that, you know, you're my mentee, and how much I've learned from you and how inspirational you are, because I also did astronomy and planetary science, but didn't finish, and so therefore need to finish. But I keep saying I will get back to it at some point, but I think I'll be 60 and collecting my degree. So
one day, Nicola.
One day. Yeah, what I've done is had a child, and that obviously, you know, takes you off the path. You can't do everything. Well, I can't do everything physically, but you know, I will go back to it one day, and you are very inspirational in that way for me. But I had some questions about working in testing, and also, I don't know if there are people on the call who are in test consultancy, but I mean, I've also worked in consultancy and contracting as well. I mean, for you, what do you think the differences have been that you found in, I don't know if you've worked in anything other than consultancy, have you? You've done.
I haven't, but I have enough people who haven't to know what the differences are.
So, I mean, what do you think the differences would be in working in a test consultancy to a permanent role, for those who on the call who don't know?
I think the main thing is just the variety. So obviously in my talk, I talked about the variety in industry, which I think is the most obvious difference. You know, rather than working on one type of project with one type of team, you're working with a range of clients, and that brings up its own challenges, as well as you mentioned, the industry specific knowledge that you need to have in order to be a good tester, because you need to understand the systems inside out to be able to write good tests. You're also working with completely different teams of people, because you're normally working with, you know, your own team in your consultancy, but then you've got a client side team, and all clients are so completely different in their approaches to testing, how they see you, how you need to interact with them. And so you almost start from scratch every time you're on a new project, and you kind of have to be humble in that respect. Like, even if you've been a tester for 20, 30 years, you have to go into a project really fresh faced and ready to learn, and also ready to, you know, work out that there are still gaps in your knowledge. Because I think with consultancy, like you said, no 2 days are the same, they're far from it. And so yeah, it's a variety of industry, a variety of clients, but then also a variety of ways of working. So even being in high integrity software where it's heavily regulated, a lot of the tools are the same. There's actually been completely different project styles. Like I said, this project I'm on now is my first agile one, and I didn't know if I was ever going to get that sort of experience as a tester, and here I am. And so I find myself constantly being thrown out of my comfort zone, whereas I feel like in other permanent roles it can be easy to get comfortable if you're, you know, you've got your certain level of expertise, you're very happy in your niche, you've got a good role, you can just sit there for ages until you retire, whereas I would get quite bored doing that. So it's nice at least to be learning something new all the time and being pushed and stretched. But your experience as a contractor is a bit different. So what do you think the pros and cons of contracting are compared to permanent roles?
I think that for me, when I contracted, I did it with a specific reason. We had, I've been in a big team, a big test team, and everyone was fed up of moving from role to role and being made redundant. 18 months was like the cutoff, and there were waves of jobs being moved offshore and then coming back, and we all said, you know what, I think that we can do better than this. And I think 11 of us out of one team went contracting, and some people lasted for a year, other people lasted for a few years, other people like me kept going for 11 years. You know, so it was really crazy, and I just I loved being able to just do different roles, different roles basically, and also just working on different projects, some high profile stuff like PPP, and the minister's expenses system when that first came in. Obviously you hear about it all the time now, but I was in the office when they first started, and I had to go around with a builder's like high-vis jacket and a hard hat for the first couple of days because they hadn't even finished the office, but they were getting so much pressure from the public, they had to start the project, and I got pulled in, and I did BA work on that for a little while before moving over into testing. So, you know, it's quite exciting. It's not, you know, boring at all. See?
No, far from it.
No.
Yeah. So I've got a question here from Zia, but before we jump into that, I wanted to point out, because I found it commendable that you went back to get an ISTQB certification. I just want to say that's a really good thing, and I hope the people interested can actually look into that, because it's always good to get structured knowledge for, like, say the roles you're going into and everything. Hopefully if we have time you could give tips about that, because some of the questions are geared towards that. So one of the questions we've got from Zia is, do you have any suggestions for work experience or internships, that's for tech or testing, for sixth form students?
Oh, for sixth form students,
yeah,
I'm not entirely sure, but for people a bit older, so if you're at university or over the age of 18, I know that Cambridge Consultants have something called a Tech Scholars Programme. So that may even be for school leavers. I will need to go and check. But the Tech Scholars Programme brings in young people who don't necessarily have all the technical skills or experience to get into tech, but provides them with really valuable work experience. And I know that we recruit test scholars specifically for the test group at Cambridge Consultants, which I'm part of. So highly recommend looking at them. We also do year-long internships, and that is only for university students. But if you are doing any sort of science or engineering degree and fancy doing a year as a test engineer, that's a really great opportunity. In the wider sphere, I think there definitely are opportunities out there. You just have to know where to look. I think LinkedIn is a really great place to start, particularly if you can't find a specific job opening. If you can find somebody that works at a company that you're interested in, maybe they're in a test role, come and speak to them. As you said, Nicola has got openings at her company. Capgemini and Cambridge Consultants both have openings, so please come and talk to us and find other people. And I think it's always important in your career, it's always about who you know, who can get you in that role, who can give you the right advice. So just make sure you reach out to as many people as possible. And good luck to you.
Good luck. So thanks for that. I'm just going to say a big thank you to MN. MN put a comment about this. I'll just read out. From over 30 years, or from over 30 years in IT business management and associated QA, I've found that there are far too few user ambassadors involved in the wider testing communities. I'm sure it's something that Nicola will have also experienced, so thanks for that. The next question was about whether the recording will be provided on the BCS YouTube channel, and Nicola gave a thumbs up, so we'll work towards getting that out. And then the one after that is about is from Hannah. Hannah was saying that I may be recruiting a new software tester apprentice shortly. Okay, Zia, you've got someone to run to. Any advice for this? I've only ever recruited experienced testers before. Nicola, maybe this one might be for you.
Oh, I knew you'd say that. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what your company's process is for hiring apprentices. They should have a process, because you can't just bring somebody in and then not have a program for them to work on. Obviously, they need to have maybe I'm guessing that they're going to be released to college or uni. They need to have, something to work towards, and they need to know who they're going to be working with every day and the teams that they're going to be working alongside. So there needs to be a program in place. So I guess you'd work with your HR or people team to put that program together and what that looks like. We get interns every year, and there's a program of work for them and an expectation for a project to be delivered and that kind of thing. So that ultimately would be the same kind of thing that you do for an apprentice, but over a longer period of time, I would assume.
Yeah, that's really, really good. In a way, it ties into when I would recruit for BAs or PMs. I think it was when we're bringing new starters into the company, what we focus more on is how we'll mentor them, help them grow, as well as give them clear and set objectives of what they need to deliver. Unlike the experienced ones that already know what they need to do, for these ones, you pretty much have to hold their hands and sort of make things obvious to them. So, and then when they see themselves working towards the goal and achieving something, they feel more involved, they actually want more of it, they get more experience in everything. So if you can just consider mentoring and sort of like hand-holding them, should be pretty much the same with recruiting an experienced tester. So that's about it. Beth was kind enough to post a link to career pages for Capgemini and Cambridge consultants. And I think, yeah, Nicholas posted hers too. So if you're looking for if you're trying to start a career in tech, please just follow these links and see what you can apply to. Again, they're available on LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out to them. Their names, well, everyone knows their names, Beth Clark and then Nicola Martin. Just reach out, say hi. I know how helpful they are with helping people build their career. So maybe we'll take one more question before we close, if that's okay. Do you recommend an older engineer to change career to become oh yes. I'm sorry, before I hand over to Nicola to answer this, do you know how much estates get paid? It is crazy. Like, no, please go in. Yeah. So I'll hand over to Nicola.
Oh, right. Okay. No, yeah, it is crazy amounts of money at the moment. I wish I had that kind of level of technical skill to go and do something like that. But I think those days are not something I want to go back to, because I would contract and that would be big money, but it's a lot of stress as well. And you don't do it just for the money. I know I've mentioned money a lot. You do it for the love of the job. And that's the only reason why I'm still here 23 years in. I'm still working in this area because I really enjoy it and I like speaking to people about it. But yeah, I think if you're an older engineer, you can absolutely do a career change to become a tester. You just have to find a company that's willing to work with you. In fact, my last contract in 2016, I worked with a 65-year-old. He'd only just come into testing. He did, I think he did BA and PM work before that, and then decided that he retired and then came out of retirement because he was bored.
Yeah.
I've worked with people, I was just about to say, who've come back out of retirement because they were bored. And I think if you're a bit older, the amount of experience you can bring into a testing career is invaluable, like both the domain knowledge in terms of a tester, but then you could also make a really great mentor and kind of share that more holistic view of working in engineering technology. So yeah, I think you absolutely can make that transition. If you're a bit older, you have a wealth of knowledge and experience to bring with you.
Yeah. That's really, really good. I think from my side also, I'm not really sure if maths is like the older part or something. We don't have enough software testers that agree, and software engineers or developers that actually want to test because they don't know it's something that they could do and enjoy just as much as they enjoy development. And that's why there's a huge market for them. So if you're considering moving or switching or just doing the, I don't know, sideways move, it will be really fruitful. I believe that all of my tester friends really love the job. So yeah. All right, so that's about it from everyone. And maybe closing remark from Nicola, and then we can.
I think we've said loads today, to be honest. As I've said, find somebody to work with you as a mentor if you're not confident about getting into testing. per se. Agencies will give you lots of information and advice as well. You know, you could potentially be a person that they could find a job for, so they're more than happy to talk to you about what your options might be, and just give you some you know, some ideas about where you might be beneficial, or where, you know, your skills might be beneficial, and what area you might potentially want to move into as a niche.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you so much, Beth. Thank you, Nicola, for making time for this. Thanks to everyone for joining. I really hope you got something out of this. So yeah, have a lovely day. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye. Thanks.
Bye.